I want to share some of the lessons over the next couple months that we've learned at CEO Bootcamp. So Vern and I run CEO Bootcamp. We get in on Tuesday, all day Wednesday, all day Thursday, half day Friday, and we're working with 5 to 10 entrepreneurs at a time. And we get to go really deep on some of their issues. We do one-on-ones with them, and we meet as a group collectively. And always we have some great lessons that come out of each boot camp. We just hosted our 10th one, so we've had 80 or 90 people go through boot camp already. It's been an amazing experience. And in the last boot camp that we had, there was an attendee, not the one that just happened, but one boot camp before. There was an attendee that was actually negotiating the sale of their company, and they were deep in the middle of negotiating that. And there was one really important client contract that they had to get wrapped up before that negotiation. And we talked about, during boot camp, we talked about Victoria Medvec and her negotiating strategy. And I'll throw a little plug out to the Growth Institute. Victoria's got a great course on Growth Institute on negotiating. If you haven't been through it, highly recommend it. But so we were teaching some of the methodologies and the strategies from Victoria Medvec's philosophy on negotiating. And one of them is synchronous communication. Never send a proposal, an email, even a response to a question without getting on the phone with the person that sent it and working through it together. So here's this major transaction being negotiated, 9-figure transaction. One client relationship is critical to the whole thing. And the attendee was right in the middle of the negotiating. And we talked about synchronous versus asynchronous, and he really took that to heart. So the next week he gets back to the office, and it was time to finalize this client relationship. And he actually shared with us after that every other time he would have sent the proposal asynchronously and waited for a response, and he thought it was probably a 3-month sales cycle. So he gets back and he decides to try Victoria's strategy of synchronous communication. And he sends the proposal, but he sends it at a time they've scheduled ahead of time to get on the phone and go through it. So that goes really well. And then a question or two come back. And he said, always in the past, he would have just emailed the answer. But instead, schedules another call, and they go through the questions together. And then they have a call. Actually, it happened over the weekend on Saturday. Another question comes back. This time he just picked up the phone and he called the client directly, and they worked through that issue. Long story short, he took a 3-month average sales process. They were able to negotiate the contract over the weekend, and amazingly, they found 10% more value that the client didn't even understand was possible to have as a service provided by this company. So the contract value went up by 10%, and they closed it the following week. So they cut about 11 weeks off the sales cycle, increased contract value 10%, and the boot camper 100% credits that to the power of synchronous communication versus asynchronous communication. And the best part of the whole story was it increased the value of the sale of the company because this client relationship was so important. It actually drove up the value of the sale. So certainly his boot camp was paid for thousands of times over, but there's great lessons in there. And if you haven't been through Vicky's course, highly recommend it. But this idea in business of asynchronous communication, it's so easy to hide behind email, and then that email gets circulated and all of a sudden your proposal's dead and you never even had a chance to kind of talk about it, versus doing it synchronously. And you can hear through the phone, or even better on Zoom, you can see the body language when they may say yes to something, but you sense there's trouble there. There's so many subtle clues you can pick up synchronously that you'll never get asynchronously.